This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for theories, queries. What are we going to talk about today, Steve?
You doing, Karen?
It's been a while, so
It has been a while.
yeah.
It has been a while, but I'm glad we're back. I noticed that things kind of go a little smoother when I have some kind of theme, where the two theories we talk about are connected. So this time it's going to be about math and science, and have a couple of theories that fall in line with that.
Okay.
The first one is called "Math is Hard," and Father's Day was a little while ago, and I'm a math and science guy. My daughter married a guy who's a high school math teacher. So for Father's Day, he and I some math T-shirts, some funny math T-shirts, and his said, "I like to make people cry. That's why I became a math teacher." And it kind of reminded me about a T-shirt I got decades ago. One of my favorite T-shirts. I'm a big T-shirt guy, and I got it at Target, and it was a black T-shirt, and on the front in white letters it just said "Math is hard," and that's all it said. And I loved it. So I bought it, and I'm wearing it. And usually you wear a T-shirt, you wear something else with a pattern on it, and people walk by and they look at it and they look away, and whatever. This is the only T-shirt I've ever worn where two people actually commented on it, and it's funny. One was a young lady. We were walking by each other, and she read it and she said, "Oh my God, I love that T-shirt. It totally verifies everything that I've ever felt about math."
Right.
Thought, okay, then went our separate ways, and I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And then another day, a guy is walking by me, and does the same thing, kind of glances at it and whatever. I notice, and right before he passes me by, he looks up at me and says, because it says "Math is hard," and he says, "No, it's not," and he kept walking. And whatever, I didn't enter any kind of conversation with these two people, but the dichotomy, it was exactly what my theory's about. How some people just hate math and some people just love it. It's just one of those things. So here it is. This is theory number 2, an oldie. Okay. Math is hard. Having a degree in physics and enduring myriad calculus classes, I believe I'm more than qualified to sound off on this subject. Math is the only subject I know that creates an emotional response when brought up in conversation. People either love it or hate it. There's no in between. And many people base their love-hate feelings about it on situations that occurred while they were in school. Those that math came easy to sat in the front of the class, answered every question correctly, and for the most part felt pretty good about themselves. Those that had difficulty with math sat in the back, scowling and agonized over how slow the clock was moving. What differentiates math from other subjects is that in other classes, you're taught new things, you study them, and you either learn or remember them or you don't. But math, and this is at almost every level, it's taught under the guise that, it's not that tough, it's actually quite simple, or it's something everybody should be able to understand. And because it's supposed to be easy, half the class is actually getting it. When you don't get it, you feel stupid. It's easy. It's supposed to be easy. Everybody gets it. Everybody understands it except me. Therefore, I must be a dumbass. The truth is that math is hard. It's an abstract subject that constantly changes its rules the farther along you go. First, only positive numbers exist. Then all of a sudden you have negative numbers. Then you can't take the square root of a negative number. Well, then all of a sudden you can. What teachers should be telling their students at every level is that math is hard. Some people may get algebra right away, others may do well in geometry, but most people don't understand every aspect of the subject. If students were told that math is hard rather than easy, they wouldn't feel so stupid when they don't get it right away. It's a difficult subject. They are the normal ones, and the ones that do get it are just good at math. It's up to teachers to let everybody know that if they don't catch on right away, it's okay. It's just the nature of math. Math is hard, period.
Well, great subject matter because that's how I found math growing up. Um, and I know things are taught differently today, but I know when I was going to school in the 50s and 60s, it was, you know, I'll show you how to do it. Now open up your book and you do it. Well, it was easy watching the teacher put up 5 + 5 = 10. But now that's not in my math book. My math book now says 4 + 5. And I saw how you came up with 10, but why can't I come up with the answer?
Right.
And I agree with you. I think if we were told this is difficult, but given us better tools. And that's one of the things that I think schools are doing differently today. You have this toolbox, you know, then the toolbox is in your head and you know where to go looking for the pieces and parts to put together.
Yeah. 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 I think teachers don't have quite the patience. I know that you don't have time to go to every student, but like in math, the class is cut in half. I mean, you get it or you don't get it.
Right.
And people will just look at it and just, oh, I get it right away. And I think teachers like that. And it's a lot easier to move the lesson along. When you have people that are understanding what you're saying. Okay, now look at this. Oh yeah, now look at that. Oh yeah. And it's obviously they don't. I'm not knocking teachers. They don't
Sure.
deliberately want to leave the other ones behind, um, but you get so frustrated when you don't understand something and you think everybody else does, and
Exactly.
you get this emotional response. Um, maybe you need a little tutoring on the side, or maybe she just needs to explain it in 2 or 3 different ways so that everybody else gets it.
Right.
But math in particular, it's one of those things that it's almost like a different language. At every level, even the basic levels. You put something on the board, yeah, okay, 5 + 5 or 4 + 5, but math reads like a sentence, and you have to be able to be able to read the sentence. What is that actually saying? Okay, that's saying 4 of something added to 5 of something is the same thing as this number over here.
Right.
So you have to be able to read it, and you have to be able to understand what it's asking you to do, and then understand how to go about and do what it's asking you to do. It's a process. And again, when people kind of look at it and know the answer, and just want to move on, and you're not one of those people, it really it's tough emotionally, and it really makes you hate the subject because it makes you feel bad about yourself. And uh, math is another one of those things where it builds on each other. Well, you get this, now we're going to do something different, and if you didn't get that, you're not going to get this. And you can't stop the whole class and say, okay, I didn't get that, we can't move on until I figure this out. You just kind of roll with the punches. You just say,
Right.
okay, I guess I'll figure out the next stuff. And the math continues to build, and you're not building along with it, because you didn't get that. Or even if you get certain things and you're doing okay, but then this you don't get, it still wants to move on without you.
Exactly.
And you're toast. You're done. You unless you find somebody that can help you get you to understand it. So it's tough. It's tough. And I found that at every level was the same. Whether it's algebra or calculus, some it's the way it's put across to you that helps you remember, or helps you figure out how to do it, and how to make it okay.
Right.
But just the whole concept of, okay, this is not easy. I'm not stupid because I don't understand this. This is a hard subject, and I just remember constantly being told, growing up in classes, that it's easy. Look, there it is. That and that and that and that, and there it is. What's the problem? And that made it worse. That made it worse. Really for a lot of the class. So
Well, I remember when I went back for my master's degree, I had avoided math in undergraduate. Okay. And I took every other course that I could to still get my degree, without taking math. But in my master's course, I had to have had math in my bachelor's. So if I hadn't gone on, I would never have had to take the class. And I was struggling. And so my husband, who is my age, and good in math, he was trying to show me the way he learned. And then I have my 20 something son who's looking at the two of us and going, no, that's not the way it's done. You have to do this step before that step. And I'm going, well, but here's the first thing. He goes, I don't care. This is algebra. You have to know when to multiply, when to divide, when to add. And it was like, well, how do you know? And obviously he's not a teacher, and he was very impatient with his mother, and he'd say, just let me show you.
Yeah.
Well, I still didn't learn it. Okay.
Yeah.
I barely got through the math class. I graduated with honors with a very low grade in math. And I wish math was taught more as how you use it in everyday life, because I think people then, even though it's still difficult, they're going to see a use for it, you know. And when you're telling me to get, when I'm 9 years old, what is the area of a living room? I don't care. It's either very small or it's big, you
Right.
know. But if somebody would have explained it, you know, well, someday when you grow up, you're going to want to go buy carpeting for your room.
Right.
And
Right.
do you want somebody to take advantage of you?
Right.
So, and then it would have been like, oh, okay, I understand how I'm going to use this in the future. But not understanding that, that makes it just as hard. So,
Yeah, that's true. In college, I remember uh, they had a class, and they had a basic math class for non math and science majors. And the nickname among students for this class was Math for Poets. And
oh,
it was basically just, this is all the math you need to move on to your next, to whatever you're doing next, right? Whatever subject you're interested in,
sure.
whatever degree, whatever major you have, but you have to have some math to get through it. And this is the basic math, all you need, and then you never have to take math anymore. And it was good because it was just that. It was okay. If you want to buy square footage, some carpet that's measured in square footage, what does that mean? Well, it means this times this, you know. Or if you want to balance a checkbook, you know, well,
Right.
this is how you do it. I mean, it was just math for life is what it was, really. How to, what math are you going to see in life that isn't geometry or calculus or algebra? And I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I don't really know the curriculum, didn't really know the curriculum,
Yeah.
but the concept I thought was great. I thought was great. I thought they should have had a physics for poets too, because that's kind of the same thing. It's just some of that stuff is pretty out there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I math. You have to have a lot of patience when you talk to people, when you are trying to explain it, and you have to kind of talk in terms people get
Right.
and understand.
So, what grade math does your son in law teach?
He's a calculus teacher.
Oh,
Uh,
Okay. So he's in high school. Yeah.
yeah, high school math. He started um, at that school teaching algebra and pre-algebra, and then he kind of just kept teaching. You know, they saw that he was okay at that, and he has a degree in math himself. So he was, you know, he understood the subject matter
Sure.
obviously, and then he just kind of kept going on it. So now he's uh, head of the math department there at the high school. And you know, he's taught a few physics classes too, so he kind of knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. So,
That's
uh,
interesting. Yeah.
but yeah, it's I think I just always thought it was funny that people got so emotional about that topic. You know,
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. Oh, I love it. I love it. You know.
Well, you know, as you talk about teaching skills, I remember my brother Gary when he was teaching elementary school. Um, in the beginning, half of his class would pass spelling tests, and the other half wouldn't. And he didn't quite get it. And so he created a new way to spell words.
Hmm.
And he would give them a list, and in the list, like about half of them were words he actually made up. Okay. And he started noticing the scores going up. And he wondered why. And so he asked the kids, what are you doing differently? Studying the words. And they said, you have so many interesting words on here. And he said, well, have you looked them up in the dictionary? And they said, no. So the following week, he did the same thing, but they had to write a sentence using the words. Again, these young kids didn't look in the dictionary. The words they really knew, the sentence made sense. The others were just creative writing.
Wow. That's
And,
funny.
but he said they were getting 100%. So eventually he gave them all the words they were supposed to know, plus another half of mixed up words. And it was something about seeing this list that the kids would get excited and were paying attention. And I thought, that is interesting. And I realized that when I play Scrabble, when my opponent uses a word that, those letters can't be a real word,
Right.
I learn how to remember those words more so than anything else. So I think it's, the way our brain goes. It's like, well, that can't be a word, but okay, how do I pronounce it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect for Gary too, and playing Scrabble.
Yeah.
He's so good at selling a word,
Yep.
with the poker face, and okay, there it is. This is my word. I get 89 points on it. You're going to challenge me on it? What? Who are you? You're going to challenge me on this word? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to challenge you. Put it down. It's got to be a word. Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
So now we're going to talk about my other least favorite subject, science.
Wow. Man, you really riveted today. You got
yes, I am.
Things that you can't stand. It kind of goes along the same thing. In order to understand something, if it's a concept, if it's a math problem, for me to be able to say I understand this subject, I always felt that I had to be able to explain it to somebody. Okay, in terms that they understood. Okay, if I could explain it to you so that you understand it, then that means that I understand the subject. And if I can't, then maybe I kind of get it, but I don't really get it. I always felt that. There was a movie a while back with Denzel Washington, and I can't remember what it was, but he was a lawyer, and he was grilling this guy on the stand. And at one point he said, okay, now explain it to me like I'm a 2-year-old. Denzel Washington's got that stare. Yeah. And to me, that's perfect. That makes total sense. If this guy, explain it to him, in the most basic terms so that I get it. Don't give me any BS. Don't paint a picture, whatever. Explain it to me like I have no idea what you're talking about. Sure. Then you really get it. Then you really understand something. And I think this next theory, just as much as it's about science, it's also about breaking things down into parts that you really understand. So this is theory number 14, relativity. When Einstein came up with his special theory of relativity in 1905 and his general theory of relativity in 1916, he transformed the way that people had looked at the world for the past 200 years. Newton's theories of physics, called classical mechanics, had been the accepted standard model of the universe. But even as scientists began to accept Einstein's mysterious theories as the new model for the new physics, most people, including scientists, were at a loss to explain exactly how it all worked. Einstein, who had a great sense of humor, became weary of the countless people who asked him to explain relativity. So once he said, when you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity.
Yep.
As difficult as these topics are to understand, they can be explained to just about anyone regardless of one's science background, if you break it down into three basic tenets. One, all motion is relative. Two, mass and energy are interchangeable. And three, space and time are not absolute. These brief, concise statements can be explained in as much or as little detail as an audience can assimilate. From grade schoolers to grad students, everyone can at least gain a little bit more of an understanding of what reality theory is all about by starting with these three basic concepts and someone who can explain them. So that's kind of, it's again, it was about relativity and what I think about it and what I know about it. But it's kind of like with math, you know, if you can explain something to somebody, you know, in basic terms, in whatever terms they can get it, then then they'll understand it. And you know, I never really wanted to be a teacher per se. Just didn't have that, you know, any desire to. But I thought I'd make a pretty good tutor. I have a way of kind of being able to break things down into little pieces, and if you don't get it, you know, smaller pieces until
Right.
you actually get it. I like to find what somebody's interested in and kind of make analogies from the subject to that. You know, like you go from this step to that step, the same as if you're running from first to third. You pass right by second. Don't even worry about second. Just go from first to third. That's what you got to do. You know, that's how this theory works.
Right.
You have to fix baseball. I like analogies like that. You know, but you know, so that's pretty much it. I just I enjoy math. I enjoy science, but I also like the idea of being able to explain it to people, to kind of demystify it. You know.
Well, you know, when it comes to science, I had two teachers that really made it difficult for me. The first one was in elementary school. Um, she was, this is how it goes, and you're going to sit in your seat and you're going to do the work and you're going to understand it. And it's like, I don't mind the sitting in my seat. Okay. But again, she was teaching to those who really got it.
Right.
And to the rest of us who didn't get it, you know, when you'd raise your hand and ask the question, she'd say, we'll talk about it later, or read your book, or some off the wall answer that didn't give me the answer that I was looking for. I made it through her classes. And in elementary school, I think she was my only science teacher. But when I got to junior high, we had a science teacher who now I think his teaching was more like my brother Gary's, but I didn't understand it. Um, and I think we were taking a life science class at the time. And what he did was he gave animals totally different names. So a cow may be a dog may be a sheep. Well, that for my brain at the time, I was puzzled. It's like, so you're talking to me about this, what I see as a cow, but you're telling me it's a dog, and made no sense. When I took science in college, all of a sudden it dawned on me, the labels don't make a difference. It's what is happening with the chemicals or the earth or with reproduction. That's what you're learning. It has nothing to do with that's a cow, that's a dog, that's a tree, that's a flower. You already know that. And I got through that science class like, oh, this all makes sense. But again, I think when you have a little bit more life experience, sometimes these courses can all of a sudden like fit into your life. You know, why did I have to take science? Well, you know, I had to know, for me especially, I have to know the difference between a weed and poison ivy, because I love to go out in my backyard and I have poison ivy. Okay.
Wow.
So it was like, you're not going to just put your hand in there. Um,
Right.
or, I was in the plant business for a long time. Well, what makes these plants grow, and how can you reroot them, and which ones, do you have to graft? When I was younger, it was like, I'll never need to know that.
Right.
But when it became my business, it was like, oh, now I understand what all that information was about.
Right. Right. And it's true. You go to school and you're not in school to learn math or to learn science or to learn history per se. You go to school to learn how to learn. And when you do math, you're learning, you're using part of your brain that is abstract. Okay, you're learning how to think abstractly about solving a problem. When you take another subject, you're learning a different problem solving method. Each class is a different problem solving method that teaches your brain. So it doesn't matter if you know the 36th president or not. It doesn't matter if you know this particular algebraic equation later in life. um, what it's doing, it's showing you how to problem solve, you know and in high school you don't get it. You don't know what, you don't get it. You just hate everything because what am I going to use this for? What am I going to use
Right.
this for? And later in life, it isn't those specific memories. Okay, yeah, I do know who the 36th president is, thanks, Mrs. Whoever. It's the way they got you to problem solve and remember those things that you're going to carry on with you. And your science teacher, he did tell you that, but you didn't get it, you didn't hear it back then.
Right.
But you got it, though. You didn't know you got it, but you got it.
Exactly.
And then you used it later on. So he got through to you. His method worked, whatever it was. You use that method later on in life. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Well, going back to your comment about teachers, teachers have a very difficult job today.
They do.
I think back when I was going to school, their jobs may have been difficult, but not to the same degree. Um, they were able to control their classrooms um, without worrying about what mom or dad were going to say or the principal. Um, Today, teachers are on guard because they know it just takes one kid to post something on social media and they can be in big trouble.
Right.
And also, they're not getting the support from the community financially the way they should. So,
Right.
kudos to your son-in-law for, sticking it out because we need good teachers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and um, you know, I remember one time my oldest son, he was asked to write I don't, it wasn't a report. I think it was a story of some sort. And um he got an A on it and he showed it to me, very proud. And he said, "Here, mom, you want to read it?" And I remember reading it and I didn't understand his grammar. Um and I kept looking, how did you get an A on this? And your punctuation is wrong and whatever. But I didn't say that to him. I remember going to um, an open house and asking his teacher, and she said, I didn't tell them they were being graded grammatically.
Mm.
I wanted to see what they would write if they didn't have any restrictions. And she said, and your son is very good. And I looked at her and I thought, well, what was good about it? And she pointed out the creativity in it. And once I saw that, because I didn't even understand this subject, I think it was back in the Dungeon and Dragon days. Okay.
Right.
And so, but when she explained it to me, it made sense. And he has become very good at writing. He's now an attorney, so he does have to write.
Sure.
And he knows grammar inside and out, but it's because of that one type of assignment. Just write. Don't worry about anything else.
That's
And
great.
I don't think I was ever given an assignment like that. And
No.
so my story or writing may have been good, but if my grammar wasn't up to par, then I didn't get a good grade. And then it makes you think, hey, I can't write.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's a great story. You get figuring out a way to get something out of the students, and okay, maybe it's okay. Forget this rule, forget that rule, forget that rule. Just tell me what you think. Tell me what you feel. Get it out there. Put your point across somehow.
right.
That's creativity. That's great. That's great.
So we're going to do this again next month. I can't wait to see which theories we're going to talk about, or if you have some new ones you're going to be sending on.
Could very well be. Could very
I'm
well be.
looking forward to it. Have a happy, safe 4th of July.
Thank you very much.
And that's to all of our listeners. I know here in the state of Ohio, you can buy fireworks. You're not supposed to set them off. And it already feels like 4th of July because neighbors are setting off fireworks every night. So please be careful
Absolutely.
because we want you all to tune in the future.
You're right. You're right.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye now.